What up, fam? I am Dr. DeLuna. You are listening to Drop It Like It's Doc podcast. Today, we're going to talk about some herbal superstars that can transform hormonal health. I honestly can't believe that I haven't really talked about herbs that much. And it might be because I get a little worried that some of you are going to disregard the fact that herbs are medicine and they need to be treated with respect. So I have to start this episode by giving you a little disclosure that herbs are medicine. If you are on any medications, you can't just start taking one of these herbs without checking if there's an interaction. You can't just Google if there's an interaction, because a lot of these herbs influence different enzymes via your liver that can completely change medication levels. So I just need you to know that you have to do this safely. And also, with that being said, don't just buy whatever BS supplement someone on Instagram tells you to buy. Each herb has its own personality, and hormones have their own personality. And you need to know what you are treating before you just load your body up with a bunch of stuff. And that might be why you're like, I tried herbs, they don't work for me. Babe, they always work. Like, herbs literally always work. It's that you just probably are choosing the wrong one, or you're buying a supplement that someone's just making money off of, but doesn't actually have enough in their proprietary blend to do anything to your hormones. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend working one-on-one with a naturopathic doctor, because naturopaths have not only been trained in extensive herbology, but we also have a knowledge of pharmacological interactions and the way that medications work in your body to make sure that you are as safe as possible. I also love herbalists. Herbalists are amazing, and herbalism is a lost art that we are bringing on back. So, with everything that I just said, let's talk about some reasons that you might want to use herbs and how they could show up in your body, and then we'll talk about some of my best friends. So some of you have been on birth control for a long time, and you might even be on birth control right now, listening to this episode being like, I want to balance my hormones. And I hate having to be this girl, but I always am. And I mean, just in life, I'm usually the one that has to drop a truth bomb like this. But if you are on hormonal birth control, you can't balance your hormones, honey, because that pill or that shot or that IUD is telling your brain not to cycle via your hormones. And all of these herbs are influencing hormones that are only made when you cycle. So sorry, not sorry that this is not something that really applies to you. Of course, if you were to come off of birth control, there are things that you can do to balance out your hormones naturally. But while you are on that medication, it is working. And the way that it is working is by making it so that you are not cycling, you are not ovulating. Ovulation only happens if your body, A, in the follicular phase, has enough estrogen to trigger a brain hormone called LH. That LH surge is what tells your body to release an egg. That egg, when it is released, can make a baby if it gets fertilized. But what is left behind from that casing of the egg is called the corpus luteum, and it becomes a progesterone factory to make progesterone. So we're going to start with herbs, or really a couple, that influence that piece of the puzzle. A lot of hormonal issues show up because you're not ovulating. You cannot ovulate for about a million reasons. One of them is stress. One is low vitamin and mineral deficiency. Other things could be something like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. There can be different blood sugar imbalances. There can be a whole slew of things that can make it so that you don't ovulate. And one of which is that you've been taking hormonal birth control for the last decade of your life, and all of those estrogens, those exogenous estrogens, build up in your body. They are still stored in your body, in your adipose tissue, and they are slowly telling your brain, hey babe, you don't have to cycle. You don't need it. So if that is you, there's a lot that we can do to A, get those hormones out of your body so that that is a clear pathway of communication, but also B, different hormones that work on this axis, which is called the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. The hypothalamus releases hormones into the blood that then swim and go to the pituitary, which then swim and go to the ovaries to have the cyclical nature. So my first favorite herb of all time is something called Vitex. You may have heard of Vitex. It's also called chasteberry. And the reason why it is called that is because it has been used traditionally throughout space and time to tank your libido. Honestly, my patients have never had an issue with their libido going down while taking this herb, but it's just something to consider. This herb it looks like a little peppercorn. but it's a berry, and this berry is a game changer for connecting the brain to the ovaries, especially if there's something like high prolactin influencing this communication. So prolactin is a hormone that is made by the brain that is what you need to make breast milk. So let me also just say, honey bunny, that if you squeeze your nipple and if something comes out of it, you probably have high prolactin. I can't even tell you how often this comes up in my patient visits. Prolactin will inhibit that HPO axis. It'll tell your body, hey, we have a baby to feed. Let's not make a new one. Let's not ovulate again, even if you don't have a baby. I will actually never forget reading in 17 magazine when I was probably like 12, a story of a girl who said that she started making breast milk because her boyfriend was sucking on her nipples every time they would have sex. And I remember being a 12-year-old being like, what? And now being a doctor, that can happen. If you have excessive stimulation to your nipples, in men too, in any gender, you're gonna make prolactin. And truly a telltale sign is that something comes out of your nipples when you're not feeding a baby. But that prolactin will inhibit the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. And Vitex is one of the best herbs that can decrease your prolactin and help clear that line of communication. It's also helping to balance out some of these brain hormones called FSH and LH. FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. LH is luteinizing hormone. Both of these are responsible for different phases of the menstrual cycle. Imbalances there can cause imbalances through the entire cycle. So something like Vitex, it helps your body with its wisdom find that balance in itself. So it's not a hormone, right? It's an herb, and every herb has so many chemicals in it that are telling different arms of your body to switch its machinery. And this one is one of the best for helping your body regulate its communication, and also for people who are transitioning off of birth control, because again, that's the pathway of communication that gets a little bit lost. I will also say, because I am not your doctor, but if you have high prolactin, you need to tell your doctor, because you have to make sure that you don't have a tumor. I know, no one likes to talk about these things, but you could. You could have a tumor in your brain, okay? But if you get that all checked, your prolactin just a little bit high, it could be from stress, it could be from a vitamin deficiency, it could be from your thyroid being off, it could be from a whole bunch of stuff, but you need to get that checked out. However, say your prolactin isn't even high, but you have irregular menstrual cycles. You might ovulate one month and not the other. You might have a long cycle. You might have a short cycle. That could be a sign that communication is a little bit awry, and you can take this herb to help you. I would not recommend taking it while you are bleeding. I would recommend taking it during your follicular phase and your luteal phase, taking a break while you are bleeding. Usually herbs, of course, they're going to start to work their magic right away, but you can really see the benefit of Vitex after 1, 2, 3 menstrual cycles. And I would recommend, just going back to the birth control piece, that you give your body a couple cycles just to see what it can do on its own before you start throwing these herbs in there to change the communication, because babe, your body's super smart and you got to give her a little chance, especially if you were on hormones for decades of your life. You got to give your body a little chance. And what I would recommend in that phase, while you're trying to see what's going on, is something that can help clean up your blood. So these are called alternatives in herbal medicine. And really every alternative, every herb does it by a different mechanism, but they help to detoxify your body. One of my favorites is red clover. Those of you that are herb nerds like me, you've probably seen her out and about. She is very common. I actually love walking through the woods and seeing red clover. And also, just fun fact, if there's an herb that pops up all over outside of your house or in your neighborhood, and you see it, it seems shiny to you, that's your intuition. You probably need that herb, or it could benefit you in some way. And I remember growing up and there was dandelion everywhere and people would spray it with weed killer, and dandelion is also an alternative. So both of these herbs, I'm really just going to speak to red clover, but we can also say similar things for dandelion. They're working on the level of the blood, and they are working on the blood via the liver, because they're helping your liver clear out things that can be inhibiting that communication. So hormonal birth control has things called xenoestrogens, meaning that it looks like estrogen in your body, but it's an exogenous estrogen. It's not one that your body is making. But your cells don't necessarily know the difference. So they're sensing that there's this estrogen in circulation, and then it will tell your ovaries, hey babes, you don't have to make estrogen today because we got it. But that's not necessarily true. So if you came off of birth control and if you still have not gotten your period, it could be because of that mechanism, that you have too much exogenous foreign estrogen in your body that is not being cleared. So now your brain is not thinking that it has to make its own. So things like alternatives that work on the blood, that work on the liver to clear it out, amazing. So red clover is one of the superstars for this. It actually has phytoestrogens in it, which are plant-based estrogens, which can tell your body to clear out the old, make space for the new, but it's a really gentle herb. It's highly available. You could take it in a tincture. You could take it in a tea. You can find some in your yard. I would say if you're spraying your yard, I wouldn't necessarily go and collect those, but truly really easy to find red clover, gentle, working on the blood, the liver. And with that being said, it's amazing for skin, amazing for anything that your body needs to detoxify from. So it's also helping to gently clean up the lymph, and the lymph is what gathers cellular waste. And your cells poop just like you poop. So this waste can build up in your blood and can influence hormones. So I would highly recommend adding her in. Something else that you really need to attune to if you are working on hormone health is that if your body is under significant stress, none of these hormonal things are really going to work for you, which is why I'm going to invite in another group of herbs for you, which are called adaptogens. Adaptogens essentially just help your body manage stress. They're not going to change your stressful life. You still need to work on that. You still need to, detoxify out toxic relationships, toxic jobs, toxic living environments, all of that. But these herbs will help your body manage stress. There are so many herbs that would fall under this category, but the one that I'm going to speak to today is Schisandra. First of all, I love her. Think about her name, like Schisandra. Are you kidding? I'm going to name my firstborn Schisandra. Just wait for it, okay? But Schisandra is also a berry. She has lots of different flavors, and she's working on a couple different places. First, she is working on the liver. The liver, you need a happy liver for really everything. I mean, it has the word live in it. I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but that's how important it is. You need a healthy liver to survive, to thrive in this beautifully toxic world. But not only is it working on your liver, it's also helping to support your lungs, just fun fact, but it's working on your adrenals because that's what adaptogens do. So I love this friend because those are a lot of the places that hormone imbalances can take place. They can build up in your liver, they can lead to toxic overload in your system, but the adrenal glands, if your body is running on stress, your body is not going to think that it's safe enough to reproduce. You might feel fatigued. You might feel really just depleted. And that is a sign to me that your adrenals need love. This herb is one of the best for actually boosting your intracellular ability to make glutathione. Glutathione is a master antioxidant in the body, and your body makes it itself. Your body makes it itself in your liver, and you could get really depleted from glutathione just based on all the BS that we have to detoxify out of our bodies. And this herb is helping to boost it on its own so that you don't have to take it on its own, because some people do supplement with glutathione, but honestly, it's not that absorbable. So I'm a big fan of helping your body make it its own. Big fan of Schisandra, one of my favorites, especially for things like hormonal acne and just fatigue. A really good one for fatigue. And in general, fatigue is usually a sign that your adrenals are exhausted. It could be a lot of other stuff too, but people almost always think that it has to do with, their reproductive hormones. And I would say probably adrenals, probably thyroid, and then, of course, reproductive hormones have a role there as well. So this is if we're just trying to, get your body in a good rhythm. But what if you have periods and they're just debilitating? Or what if you have periods and you get horrible cramps? So now you reach for ibuprofen or Midol and you just take it by the boatfuls every time you're on your cycle. Your liver's gonna have to detox it out. So now you kind of are getting yourself in a different type of hole. So I'm a big fan of herbs that are called spasmolytics. And these herbs do just that. They help to decrease spasm because your uterus is a muscle. And that contraction is what is causing muscle cramps and menstrual cramps. And that inflammation, that contraction is directly related to how many inflammatory mediators that you have in your body. So if you are someone that before you bleed, you are, binging on caffeine because you're in your luteal phase and you're getting tired, or you're eating buckets of ice cream, or, you're staying up all night, or you're drinking more to try to manage mental health, all of those things are actually going to make you more inflamed and are going to make your periods much, much worse. But let's go back to the spasmolytic. So a lot of herbs have this nature in that they will kind of relax smooth muscle or skeletal muscle. And the one that I'm going to speak to today is called viburnum, which is also called cramp bark. What do you think she does? She helps to relieve cramps. She really is a superstar. She's great not only for menstrual cramps, but a lot of individuals will get lower back pain or cramps while they're on their period. So I would say that this is something that you could utilize instead of something like an over-the-counter pain medication, because it's going to be working on the uterus on its own. Of course, I am a big believer in root cause medicine, right? Because you might have really bad cramps because maybe you didn't ovulate that month. So then you might need some other herbal friend, something that is going to work on the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. But, having something that's going to relieve that pain, that spasm, can be really, really helpful to include in your medicine cabinet. So if you do have bad cramps, that's one that I would maybe consider just having on hand. Something else that is a hormone superstar is spearmint. Spearmint is one of the best herbs for people that have high androgens. How would you know that you have high androgens? Well, first of all, you might have been giving a diagnosis of PCOS, or you might have a beard. You might have a mustache. You might notice that your voice is changing. You might notice that your skin is really oily, or that you're growing hair in places that you wouldn't think that you would grow hair. And all of these could be a sign of a hormone imbalance related with your androgens, which are more male sex hormones. That is just something that is used as a label. Every gender on this planet has every hormone. But if you are too high in testosterone, for instance, what will happen is that you'll have symptoms related to high testosterone. So you really might grow a little beard, honey bunny. And it's different if you're just like a hairy Italian Jew like me. And if you were raised and had hair all over your body, that's different than if you hit puberty and you're like, Mama, why do I have a beard now? Should I shave? I wouldn't recommend shaving your face, honey. What I would recommend doing is working on that underlying hormone imbalance. So spearmint, first of all, is delicious. So you can make different teas with spearmint, but also it has been shown to decrease testosterone, especially free testosterone, while helping to boost things like FSH, LH, and estradiol. Estradiol is typically the hormone that is more female in that it is helping you have more female sex characteristics. So that herb is helping to boost that while decreasing testosterone, but also help your brain talk to your ovaries a little bit more clearly. That herb is a gentle anti-androgen. There's lots of herbs out there. And we need androgens as women. We do, because they're helping with libido. They're helping with, mental focus, with helping your body build muscle. But when they get too high, then you can have symptoms like that we just spoke to. And if you're someone with PCOS, this could be an immense tool in your toolbox, because it's also going to help you get regular menstrual cycles. Because if you have too high of testosterone, it could kind of lead to a negative feedback mechanism, similar to if you were taking an exogenous hormone like estrogen, and it will tell your brain that you don't have to make those hormones. These were just a few of my favorite herbs that can completely transform your hormone health. And again, just like I started this conversation, it's really important that you're working with someone that can help you understand what your underlying hormonal imbalance is, because you don't want to take all of these herbs. You shouldn't need to take all of these herbs. And you shouldn't just take one because I'm telling you to. You need to investigate what your body is asking for. And that might just be liver support. That might mean that your body wants to reconnect your brain to your ovaries. It might be that you have too much estrogen, too much progesterone, too little testosterone. Whatever it is, each herb can be medicine for you based on the unique imprint of that herb and what you need it to do in your body. So I invite you to work with a naturopathic doctor, a functional medicine provider, a herbologist, someone that can help you understand these patterns, and then you can use these herbs as medicine. So if you are someone working on hormone health, I would love to hear just your journey in the comments. Please like this page, subscribe to this page, share this episode with someone that is working on hormone health. And of course, if you want to work with me directly, I would love to help you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for learning. And this is just the beginning of our journey together. We're going up and up. Why?